All right, good afternoon. Let's begin. So, we will continue our discussion on wells. And before we do that, I will take you through a 5 minutes YouTube video, and later on, I will share the link with you as well, where all the operations regarding well is very nicely animated. Okay. Uh, now I'll stop at every point of the video and explain you uh, with the help of the animation what we have more or less already discussed. So that will take around 5 to 6 minutes, and then we will proceed with what we of today's topic of discussion. Okay. So can you see my screen? Can anyone confirm? If I play this video, can you see it playing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. दिखाई दे रहा है.
All right. Very good. Okay. So the video that we are looking at right now is of a typical well site. Okay. So you can see here, this is a place, onshore place, of course. I mean, this is not within the sea. So this is on the land itself, where uh, a drilling operation is currently going on. Okay. So you can see here there are plenty of units that are present here. You can see here there are some offices and living quarters. So here the people who work there perhaps live, and these are the offices where they work from. Okay, and there are many other smaller units which are around this well. Okay, and we will explain what are those units slowly as we move ahead. And you can see there are variety type of units, but for the first for the time being, let us explain something. You can see there is like a small elevated area here. This is what we call a drill platform. So this is the platform from where the drilling actually commences, and this is this long um, tower like thing. This is what we call as Kelly bush. Okay, this is what we call as Kelly bush. I'll just open my whiteboard because this is important to know. Know what is exactly. That's not. Anyway, we will write down that later on. So this is what we call Kelly bush. This is essentially used to hold a drill pipe at the top and then slowly proceed with the drilling. And you will see how it works. Okay, as we move ahead with the video. So as I said that all the health, safety, security standards are maintained essentially in a drill space. I'll explain what are these things in just a moment. Just have a look right now about the operation. Okay. So you can see the picture of the Kelly bush. Okay. And you must have seen in while you were a child at your home or any other place how a tube oil is being drilled. It is more or less the same type of procedure. So with the Kelly bush, this drill hanger is kind of picked up on the top, on which this drill pipe will be hanging, and this drill pipe will keep on drilling in the surface. Okay. So you can see here, this is the this is the drilling bit. Okay, you can see these are all diamond bits, as you can see. So this thing will essentially rotate and cut the material out from the subsurface. Okay, and this is the drilling bit, as you can see from the top. Okay, so you can see through this through the platform, the drill bit is right now getting inside. Okay. So you can see here, this is a typical cross section of the well. You can see here, of course, there is this casing, there is this another casing, and then within those casing you have cements filled up. And what we are left with, this is the hollow space through which the hydrocarbon can come out. Okay, and this is the rock formation through which the drilling has happened. Okay. So this will essentially maintain the integrity of the well and protect anything present in the formation to get inside the well. Okay. Okay. So this is the very beginning. So you have prepared your land, and you are commencing your drilling. Okay. So from till first 50 to 80 feet, there is a small cylindrical hole which is drilled. Okay. And then the first casing, which is actually put even before the surface casing, and this is what we call as the conductor casing. Okay, this is even before surface casing. Okay, and what this conductor casing essentially does, it actually stops all the shallow groundwater, whatever, to get inside your hole. Okay. So you can see these are all shallow water aquifers. Okay, and this is the typical picture of a rock. So these are the porous spaces within which either there will be my water molecules or there will be hydrocarbon, right? So these are the pore spaces. So you can see how the drilling operation is going on. These bits are kind of rotating and it is getting inside, right? And while it is actually being drilled, there is this cutting which is coming up. We talked about the cutting. The cutting actually comes up. So you see it's still keeping on cutting, right? This is how drilling is going on. And this type of drilling is called rotary drilling because the drilling happens by rotating the drill bits. Okay. And these are the places, these are called actually they are the compressors. These compressors essentially pumps the fresh water down or the drilling mud down. Okay, we will discuss about drilling mud. So while this drilling is going on, the temperature needs to be reduced. Of course, there must be a circulation of the of the cuttings, and also the pressure needs to be maintained. Hence, it is drilled with some sort of mud. Mud is made out of oil mixed with clay or water mixed with clay. So it's a mixture of clay and oil or mixture of clay and water. And that is what is pumped simultaneously with the drilling process. And the operation goes on. Now you see, after certain depth of drilling, the drilling is stopped. Okay, and what they will do now, they will withdraw this drill pipe. So they will take out the drill pipe. And then the surface casing is now being introduced. You see, now the surface casing is being introduced, and then the cement will be pumped through it. Okay, the cement is being pumped, and you see, as soon as through the gap between the hole, open hole, and the surface casing, you have the cement is actually being filled up. Okay, and this is what we talked about. This is the blowout preventer. Okay, the blowout preventer essentially are some choking chokes, pressure chokes, which stops the unwanted flow of hydrocarbon or water back to the surface. Okay, you can see the picture of a blowout preventer, that these are all the safety valves, okay, which is just above the drill pipe, and this is what we call the Kelly bush. So now you see the drill pipe is going down. Okay, so now again the drilling resumes. You see drilling continues. Now you see the horizontal drilling is starting. So far we have been drilling vertically. Now the horizontal segment of the drilling is happening. You see. So this is what we call a neck. What we discussed in the last class. This is what we call a neck. Now you see the drilling pipe is retracted. It is still open hole. And then finally the production casing is put forward. Okay. So now this is the instrument which takes the production casing till the bottom. And then there will be cement pumped through it. Okay. Now the cement is being pumped. And then the cement is actually filling the space between the formation and the casing pipe. Okay. So now you have drilled this whole. So now you can see here, if you look at it, it looks like a telescope. Okay, suppose this is my production casing. Okay, and this is my intermediates casing, and this is my surface casing. And you can see here, of course, you know, the intermediate spaces are filled with cement. Yeah. So after the production casing, there is a third layer of protection that is put, which we did not discuss in the last class, which we call production tubing. So this is another piece of pipe which is pushed inside. So around 7 layers of protection which is there. Now these are very complicated looking well, as you can see. Let it go a little bit. Okay. So you can see here, this is a multilateral well. So from one drilling site, there are plenty of drill paths, drill trajectories have been drilled. So maybe one, two, three, four, five, six wells have been drilled, and all of them are vertical to start with. Then it becomes horizontal, and not only horizontal, then it also changes its trajectory. So these type of wells are fairly complicated and generally used for unconventional oil and gas, and they are called multilateral wells. So you can see here the Kelly bush is from here. Yeah, so this is the Kelly bush. This is the platform which you can see. And now you can of course see when you try to develop a field, you may be drilling so many wells. Okay, some of the wells could be exploration wells, some of the wells could be appraisal wells, and some of the wells could be production wells. In this example, you can see all of them are vertical wells, of course. Okay. Now you can see here this particular big tank-like stuff. This is where all the drilling mud is actually stored, which is mixed. So this is a drill mud mixture. From here, the drill mud is actually pumped to the platform through which it is pumped again in the bottom. Okay, and from after the drill mud circulates back to the top, it is kind of disposed in a this called drill pit or mud pit. Sorry, in the mud pit. Okay, so what we have seen so far is a okay. So what we have seen so far is a typical drilling operation that is happening in a on the onshore, and this whole place from where such drilling is done is called drilling rig. Okay, is called drilling rig. Is called a drilling rig. Okay. Now, of course, the drilling rig, the one that we have just seen, is in the onshore, but similar drilling rigs and platforms can also be in the offshore, in the sea itself. Okay. So, do you have any question around the video that I have just shown, or anything related to overall understanding of the drilling procedure? Or was it clear? Was it not clear? If you have any question, please ask. I'll share the video link in the WhatsApp group, of course, for you to see. Any question? Let's see. Aniket, was it clear for you?
Yes, sir. It was clear.
Did you understand more or less the operation, how it works?
Yes, more or less, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, okay, very good. Let's see anyone else. Sanjeet, did you understand the operation of drilling wells?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So I tried to give an example when in the whiteboard before, but I thought it's better that I show you a video and things will be more clearer for you. All right. So now, as we have understood the concept of well drilling, let us dive into a separate topic of discussion that will be related to well as well, and we call it as well geomechanics. And that is very, very fundamental in the operation of oil and gas. Okay? Now, before we do that, we have to get some definition of depth. Okay? Now, you can imagine that if I think of a vertical well, yeah, the definition of depth is more straightforward. Okay? So I can express the depth as TVD or true vertical depth. Okay, true vertical depth. Okay, So true vertical depth is nothing but the depth from, so this is the depth measured from the ground surface. Okay, so I mean exactly the ground surface wherever it is the drilling is being done. If I measure the depth of a point, of any point, okay, that depth I will call it as TVD, or true vertical depth. Okay, now I can standardize this depth also. Now this particular uh, you know ground level can be standardized with respect to mean sea level as well. Okay, so it can be say 30 meter. This particular ground level can be 30 meter above mean sea level, and then I can express my depth also taking it to be the reference of the mean sea level, right? I mean, here the reference was the ground level. I can express the depth from the mean sea level as well, taking the reference as mean sea level. If I express the depth with respect to the mean sea level, then this is what we call as TVDSS. Okay, TVDSS stands for true vertical depth subsea. True vertical depth subsea. So, for example, I mean, say for example, this particular well, this particular ground surface is 30 meter above the mean sea level. That means my mean sea level is somewhere here, right? So, and that is more or less a straight line everywhere. But this ground surface might not be straight everywhere, right? So maybe after 100 kilometers, the ground surface is like this, but the mean sea level will still be straight. Okay, so if I consider the depth of a, if I now have a well here, okay, I can express it with respect to TVD as well. Okay, but then if I want to compare it with, well, this is well A and this is well B. If I wish to compare these two depth, I think it is better to have the same reference point. And this is the mean sea level. This is in MSL. And I can see the mean sea level is the same for both these two wells. So I can express the depth, okay, with respect to the mean sea level for this as well as with respect to the mean sea level here as well. Okay. So this will be the TVDSS and this will be TVDSS. How far it is from the mean sea level. Okay, so I hope it is clear for you for a vertical well how TVD and TVDSS. I mean, for any well, for how TVD and TVDSS is calculated. One is the true vertical depth from the surface of the earth, and true vertical depth subsea, which is measured from the mean sea level. Now, the second complication comes. Second complication is, anyone has a question? No. The second complication is around the Kelly bush. Okay, around the Kelly bush, and I showed you what Kelly bush is. Okay, now suppose I have a well, and how the depth is essentially measured of a well is by measuring the drill pipe length. So depth is measured by measuring the drill pipe length used. Okay. Now, suppose I can express this in TVD, yeah, and then either I can measure it from exactly from the surface, or I can measure it from the Kelly bush, okay, from the top of the Kelly bush, okay, and this is what we call KB. Okay. Generally, you will see that the true vertical depth or true vertical depth sub C is expressed from your Kelly bush. Okay. So what you have to do, you have to do a Kelly bush correction, KB correction, to get your true depth. So this is my uncalibrated depth. So if the Kelly bush is of say around 30 meter, okay, in that case you subtract 30 meters from true, uncalibrated true vertical depth to get your true vertical depth. Okay, so you need to get rid of the Kelly bushing height from your depth. Now the next thing is measured depth. Measured depth, or this is also called MD. Okay, and what is MD? Suppose MD is more or less more applied in case of a complicated composite or horizontal well. Okay, suppose this is how my well looks like. Okay, what would be my, and suppose this is my mean sea level. Okay, so the measured depth is essentially if I measure the depth along the well trajectory. Okay, if I just measure this whole length, the length or the depth measured along well trajectory, and this is what we call as MD or measured depth. And of course, then my true vertical depth is this. This is my true vertical depth, and TVDSS is this. This is okay. So while you do any calculations around your well, yeah, because you have to do a lot of calculations around well, you have to be very careful about what depth connotation are we looking at, whether we are looking at MD, or whether we are looking at TVD, or whether we are looking at TVD SS, and then with an added complication whether it is KB corrected or not. Okay, whether it is KB corrected or not. Okay. Because you have to also tie your well data with other sort of subsurface data, for example, seismic, in which a very different depth system will be used. Okay, so you have to be able to convert such depth. So you should be able to convert MD to TVD, TVD to TVDSS, and then of course standardize it against my Kelly bushing depth. Okay, is it clear around the intricacies of depth in a well? Anand, is it clear for you? Okay, very good. So you understood about that. Now, let us get into the actual business of geomechanics. And there is a little bit of knowledge on structural geology is required here, but I'm sure you will understand what I'm trying to say. If not, you can ask your friends from fourth year and fifth year. They have already done a structural geology course, so they should be able to help you. Okay. Now, suppose I am looking at a particular point in the subsurface, a point P in the subsurface, which is situated at a TVD of around 3000 meters. Okay? So this is my point of observation. And I want to understand what sort of pressures are acting on this particular point. Okay, what sort of pressures are acting on this particular point? So let me ask from one of the third year students, from your guesses, can you just tell me what could be the pressures that can act on this particular point P? If you just make a guess, what are the pressures that could act on this point? Can someone tell me? Anyone? Okay, Nirul, tell me, what are the different types of pressure do you think would act on this point P? Or forces that will act on this point P? Imagine that you have drilled, imagine that somehow I have taken you inside 3000-meter depth and you are sitting there. What are the things, what are the forces will act upon you? Tell me, Nirul.
Sir, one should be gravitational.
Sorry?
One should be gravity, right? Gravitational force.
Gravitational
below.
force. Okay, so gravitational force will be expressed by what? I mean, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप एक जगह पे खड़े हो, ठीक है, आपके ऊपर मैंने क्या कहते हैं आपके सर के ऊपर, मतलब आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू डू इट, बट जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ आर्गुमेंट आई एम पुटिंग वन आफ्टर अनदर brick on the top of your head. What would you feel? The weight of the brick, right? Or not?
Yes, that weight. Yes, sir.
The weight of the brick. So if you are sitting at this point P, what would you feel? The weight of the
All the above rocks.
So the first thing you will
yes.
feel, of course, number one, you will feel weight of the rocks. ठीक है, तो अभी weight of the rocks को कैसे calculate करें? How would I calculate weight of the rocks? Can someone tell me? Suppose I have different densities of these weights: rho 1, rho 2, rho 3, rho 4, rho 5, rho 6, and so forth, so on and so forth. Okay, तो इसका अगर हम weight of this rock, total rock column calculate करना चाहे, if we want to calculate that, we can simply do, or you know, let's be little more scientific, weight per unit area. Okay, that will be integration of rho GH. Yeah. Okay, integration of rho GH, that will give me the weight of the rock acting at a point. You agree with me? And this is specifically we called as SV, or vertical stress. Okay, this is what we call SV, or vertical stress. Now, for example, you are standing here and this vertical stress is acting on the top of you. And then, of course, I mean, there are also rocks on your surroundings. Yeah, there are rocks on your surroundings. So what will happen if I compress you from the top? You will try to expand horizontally, but then these rocks will stop you to get expanded. So these rocks from all sides will also try to squeeze you. Okay. And it will try to squeeze you. So here you are standing, I'm drawing a plan view. Okay, it will try to squeeze you from all sides. Sometimes, somewhere it will, from some places it will squeeze you harder. Some places it will squeeze you smaller. Some spaces it will squeeze you, with an intermediate value. Okay, so, but you will be squeezed by horizontal stresses. Okay, and then we can actually define these horizontal stresses. We don't have to define all of them. We can define these horizontal stresses, one being the maximum, and we call them that as S capital H, and one being the minimum, which will be perpendicular to S capital H, as S small h. Okay, so there will be the second. So one will be the weight of the rock, that will be vertical stress. Then I will have S capital H, which we call as maximum horizontal stress. And number 3, S small h, which we call as minimum horizontal. ठीक है? और क्या रहेगा? What else would provide pressure at this point P? What else would provide pressure at this point P? Okay, let me ask one of my 4th year students now. Let's see who is there, because I have taught them, so they should know. Pratichi, tell me, other than the stresses of the rock, what else would put pressure on this point P? Pratichi.
Sir, it's weight mg.
वो तो हो गया. That we discussed now already. What else would put pressure on it? SVS capital H, S small h is done, Pratichi. What else? We discussed this before. What is there inside this rock, Pratichi? What is there? Huh?
Fluid pressure.
Fluid pressure. How could you forget that? I think you are learning it for the 3rd time, isn't it? Okay. So what I was discussing with Pratichi, that other than the weight of the rock, of course, there will be, within these 4 spaces, there is fluid, right? There is fluid. There is fluid column, either hydrocarbon or water. So there will be fluid pressure. So the 4th thing is fluid pressure. Okay. So there will be fluid pressure as well. Now, of course, these horizontal stresses and the vertical stresses will be also contributed not only by the weight of the rocks, but also there will be the component of plate tectonics. Because क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे, these plates are also being moved, ना? So there will be also additional forces acting at this point P, because I mean they will be expressed in terms of SV, S capital H, S small h. I mean the effect will be added on SV, S capital H and S small h because of plate tectonics or plate tectonics as well. Or on the other way we can say that both weight of the rock as well as plate tectonics will contribute to SV, S capital H, S small h, and then there will be fluid pressure. Okay. Now, if I want to express, if I now want to put this whole thing together, okay, so I can say that at this point P, okay, there is this stress ellipsoid, okay, there is this stress ellipsoid, and then of course there is this beautiful, let me draw it, it's not the right, it's not properly drawn. Yes, so this is my point P, and then this stress ellipsoid on the top of it, acting on this point P, whose one axis will be SV, one axis will be S capital H, and the other axis will be S small h. SV, S capital H, and S small h are all of different length, representing different values of the stress. Okay. Not only that, there will be this fluid pressure, which will but be represented by a sphere, which can be, or I mean, which might be bigger or smaller. You know, it doesn't really matter around P, but this will act opposite to the stress. Okay. So the stress will perhaps the force. I mean, you will see the stress actually acts in the different way, but for the time being, remember it's trying to squeeze point P, and pressure is actually, this fluid pressure is actually working against the stress. Okay, so if stress works this way, fluid pressure works on the opposite side. Okay. So these are the things it is acting upon. Now there is something called effective stress. Effective stress is equals to SV minus, let us say this fluid pressure is PP. Fluid pressure is PP, SV minus PP, because it's acting in the opposite direction. So this is the effective vertical stress, effective SV, or I can simply write down SV effective. Then S capital H effective is S capital H minus PP. But you see this value of PP is exactly equal, okay, for here, here, and here, and then S small h effective is equals to S small h minus, okay. But the value of this PP is exactly equal in all three cases. Okay. Now let us say I have a piece of rock. Now I have a piece of rock situated at a depth of 3000 meter. Okay. And on the top of it, three stresses are working. Okay. This is SV effective. This is S capital H effective, and this is S small h. Okay. Okay. Now what I do essentially that I drill a well through it. Yeah. I drill a well through it. Yeah, so this looks like this. It's getting through this piece of rock, and then I am increasing fluid pressure here. Because I'm pushing, drilling mud inside. I'm pushing drilling mud here. So I am increasing the pressure here. So now I'm trying to draw something. So suppose here is SV or SV effective, doesn't really matter. S capital H and S small h. And slowly I am increasing the P. The pressure is slowly increasing in the well. Okay. Now there will be a point when this particular pressure will be crossing S small h. What does this mean? That, and as I said, that the fluid pressure acts opposite to the stresses. So in other words, I am slowly increasing this value. Okay. And there will be a point when this pressure P will be more than S small h. And what will happen then, this rock will be fractured. Okay. This rock will be fractured. This rock will break. Okay. So the moral of the story is, if the fluid pressure inside the well is more than S small h, or that is what we call as minimum, that is what we call as minimum horizontal stress, then what we observe, that the formation means this rock, right? Formation hydrofracts. Hydrofracts means it actually creates fracture. The integrity of this formation is lost. There are plenty of fractures developed in this particular rock. Okay. So I increase the amount of pressure in the well so much that it actually crosses sigma h, sigma small h. In that case, it actually fractures. Okay. Is that concept clear for everyone? Can I just ask? Just see. What happened? Why everyone is leaving? Jitendra, was it clear for you what we discussed?
Hello.
Yes, Jitendra, was it clear for you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you understood SV, S capital H, S small h, and then when I
Yes.
frac a formation,
Yes, sir. Yes.
that I increase sufficient pressure in the well, that it actually creates fractures.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Very good. Now, if I try to draw, so what I have drawn in the very beginning, the picture. This is the surface, and then I want to characterize the pressure at a point at a point P, and then I try to do that in a bit more scientific way. So in the y-axis, I am drawing EVDSS, and in the x-axis, I am drawing pressure. Yeah. So pressure and stress are the same, have the same unit. It can be expressed in bar, or PSI or Pascal or MPa, megapascal, kilopascal. Okay. So we will use the unit bar. So first we have to draw SV. Okay. So you can imagine that if I think of a point which is just beneath the surface, we'll have a very low SV because the weight of the rock will be less. And as I move with depth, the SV will keep on increasing. Right. So the SV will increase with depth. And at the surface, SV will be 0. Okay, so this is 0, right? This is 0. At the surface, SV will be 0. And of course, SV will so increase with a gradient. I can simply calculate what sort of SV will there be by integrating rho GH, or I can simply use a very rough gradient of around 2.26 bar per 10 meters. This is how SB increases. Okay. And so will S capital H and S small h. Okay. So S capital H and S small h will also increase with depth. In this particular example, let us say SV is more than S capital H, is more than S small h, and you will soon see, I mean, in your structural geology course later on, this is what we call, this type of configuration is called normal stress regime. Okay. So S capital which H will also increase. Let's use green color. So let us say this is S capital H, and S capital H is generally around 70% of SV, 70 to 80% of SV. And then what we will draw? We will draw S small h. That will also increase with depth. So that is around 65 to 70%. And now, of course, as I said, there will be another thing present there, which is my fluid pressure. Because, as I said, the upper crust is mostly filled with either water or gas. So there will be a fluid pressure increasing as well. Say this is hydrostatic. That means normal fluid pressure gradient, which is around 1.15 bar 10 meter. Now this depends on salinity of the water. If it is less saline, then it can be around 1 bar per 10 meter. If it is very highly saline, it's around 1.17, 1.18 or 1.19 bar per 10 meter. But in general, we can take a hydrostatic fluid gradient to be 1.15 bar per 10 meter. Okay. Now suppose this situation will become bit more complicated. Suppose at a particular depth, I ask you to calculate these. Okay, so you can calculate at a particular TVDSS. You can calculate my fluid pressure. You can calculate my minimum horizontal stress. and you can calculate maximum horizontal stress and vertical stress. Okay. Now, these two are extremely important. Minimum horizontal stress and your hydrostatic gradient. Now, suppose I have drilled through this particular formation. And this is the depth we are thinking about. This is the depth we are looking at. And I am drilling it. So I have a drilling mud which I have pumped through this well, which has a pressure P. Okay. Now this pressure P, the pressure of this drilling mud must be here. So the P must be more than the hydrostatic, more than the fluid pressure. Let's just write down PP, more than the pore pressure, and this must be less than, this must be less than the S small h. Okay. This must be less than the S small h. So if it is more than S small h, this pressure more than S small h, what will happen? That I just discussed, that this will create fractures. Yeah, it will create fracture in this formation. And if it is less than pore pressure, what will happen? The fluid, whatever is present in the formation, will start to leak into the well while we drill the well. Okay. So the pressure exerted by the drilling mud must be in between your pore pressure and your minimum horizontal stress. It has to be more than the pore pressure, and it has to be less than the minimum horizontal stress. Okay. So I will stop the class here, and I'll take questions. But of course, I'll continue with this particular topic in the next class as well. So if you have any question, why many people actually left? Do they have another class, or what is it? Or afraid of me asking questions? What is it? Aniket?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
So I don't know, sir.
You don't know.
Yes, sir.
Was it clear, Aniket?
Yes, sir, it was clear.
All right. Nirul, was it clear for you?
Yes, sir, it was clear.
All right. So why did the students leave? Was it not interesting, or what is it?
So fear of questions maybe.
Fear of questions. Yeah, but if I don't ask question, how would I know that you are understanding or not? Yeah, I mean, okay. All right, then I will stop the class here, and I will see you. I will upload the pre-recorded lecture in the over the weekend, and I will see you on next Monday. Thank you.